we seem to be going around in circles, right? It always seems to coming back to this same old cycle that we went through in 2008, in 2015, 2016, and we're back here. While it affected the rest of the world, we've seen some other economies pick up. We see Ghana doing remarkably well and taking advantage of a lot of opportunities. So is it a question of leadership, or is it still just a question of us not knowing how to fix our economy? Right. So those are the questions that come to mind, that at the end of the day, what's the factor affecting us here? Is it leadership? Because we have everything that we always say this, Nigeria has everything to build a strong economy. We have the people, we have the talent, we have the resources. All of those things always come up, right? So yes, the economy is in a dire state right now, and it requires some key decisions that need to be made, right? Some key decisions need to be made on exchange rate, on how you manage the money supply, fiscal policies and monetary policies in the economy, how you ensure that there's infrastructure development and growth, how you ensure that ease of business is a lot better, how do we attract investors into Nigeria? Those are the key things that will bring us into a season of growth. And I think that we need leadership to really take some key decisions around that. I'll start with that.
Fiscal policies, you actually mentioned some strong points there. Wale, please, your own perspective as well.
Well, I mean, I think Tomie has said it all. The way I will approach it is to say the real problem is the macroeconomic framework, the framework on which the Nigerian economy is running does not really support growth, and that's where the challenge is. She's mentioned exchange rate policy. She's mentioned fiscal policy. She's mentioned monetary policy. I mean, those are the issues. What we want is growth. And if you want growth, you're also at the same time talking about creating jobs, bringing down inflation to the level that supports growth, attract foreign investors, make sure government is running on the appropriate fiscal policy framework. But what we have at the moment, is almost the opposite of all of that, even before the pandemic. And we have to be very, very real with ourselves. I have a little bit of benefit of the historicals for Nigeria because of what I do. I know where this economy is coming from. If you go back 20 years ago, the bulk of the growth that we had in the previous decade, as the 2000s, were driven by reforms across all of this sector. And of course, because we're coming from a very, very, very bad military regime. Fast forward to the 2010s, the growth we had was supported by a lot of, oil inflow, oil prices above 100. But from middle of that decade up until now, we've not gotten it right because why? Oil prices have, dropped, and then we've not been able to reform whatever is happening in the rest of the economy. We've continued to depend on oil. We've not looked at how else we can bolster exports in non-oil sector. We've not gotten our exchange rate policy right. Monetary policy have just been, neither here nor there, in my opinion. They've been doing a lot of things that are not really their business, in my opinion. And fiscal policy, I mean, there's nothing you can do with fiscal policy if you don't have money. So what we've had so far is a lot of borrowing. So, and then if you look at the leadership itself that she mentioned, the political stance or the economic stance of the leadership, I'm not sure it's really pro-markets. We need to treat this economy as a business. The president has to be a CEO, and then you have to think, how do I attract investment? How do I ensure this business is profitable, is commercialized? But what we've seen so far is, something that is a bit more welfarist in nature, and that kind of environment, growth is not going to be a lot, pandemic or not. I should start from there.
Thank you so much. Wow, when you compared the president, or when you said the president, it would be ideal for the president to see himself as a CEO, I thought, my goodness, that couldn't be far from the truth. Although, as we say, government has no business doing business. That's a different notion as to what you said. I mean, because people would bring that up as an argument to say, oh, no, government shouldn't be in business. No, but that's not what we mean. What you exactly mean is that the president should think like a CEO, and his governors should be taught as the managers of the different companies, subsidiary companies under the nation.
Thank you.
So if if they are held to account in this sense and they have a business sense behind the decisions they make, it will definitely prosper businesses. Now, I like that you mentioned pro-market policies as one of the ways that we could improve things. Tomie, you run businesses, don't you? You do, right?
Yes, I do.
How are you surviving the times? What are those things, the challenges that you've been battling with most recently?
So yeah, I run a business, right? A financial education business and an investment hub. So one of the things we do is we work with other businesses as well because we raise funding for other businesses. So yes, as a business, I run a business and then we work with funding other businesses and we work with businesses in different sectors. So I will speak to most of their experiences, right? You know, it's interesting that it's been a case of good and the bad, right? Because we see some sectors where there has been growth, remarkable growth, in spite of everything that's going on in the economy, I must admit, right? And then we also see that it could be even better if the right policies were in place, or if there were just policies and infrastructure available to help with cost of running business, and so many other factors in place to help with hiring talent, which are some of the key things that matter for a business. So if you look at the agriculture sector, for instance, which is a major sector in Nigeria. I mean, I think I always tell people that ever since I was born, they've always said that there's potential in agriculture in Nigeria, but it seems like we're still waiting to see that potential in agriculture. And one of the things we saw during the pandemic was a huge demand for cash crops from Nigeria, because when China went on lockdown and some countries went on lockdown, Africa became the second source of a lot of core cash crops. Like Nigeria is in the top 3 in terms of production of sesame seed, cashew, and so many other things, cowpeas, right? But the sad story was not a lot of companies could meet the standard for export. And that's one thing Wale said, why are we not exporting the produce we have? So in the agricultural sector, we saw cash crops trading at 10 times the premium price during the pandemic. And some companies were able to take advantage of that. But still, some were not able to take advantage of that. Because for instance, if I give you an example with cowpea, in Nigeria, cowpea in Nigeria is about 3,000% higher than the standard required to export to the EU. Right. So I know players in Nigeria that have gone to export from Benin Republic because they meet the European standard. Right. That's agriculture. Let's talk about health. The pandemic showed all of us that we do not have a health sector. Right. We saw people scrambling to travel, but you see, the whole world is on lockdown. So basically, we saw everything opened up to us that, look, what are we going to do if there's nowhere else to go? Nigerians are used to traveling abroad, medical tourism. But why don't we bring everything here, right? Huge opportunity here. And what we've seen is a lot of investors are looking to see what can they do in the health sector. We've seen some hospitals come up, but there's still huge opportunity in primary healthcare, right? We saw the fintech sector really grow as well, because financial services enable so many sectors in the economy.
Yes.
So I'm seeing that there was like the good or bad, because I did see a lot of good. I saw companies, I think Nigerian companies are just amazing because they grew even in adversity, right? So you can imagine if the economy was even doing a lot better and the government was actually supporting these businesses, right? So there was fintech, there was also off-the-grid tech, renewable energy as well. So all of those sectors kind of like saw growth, but for the companies that were ready. But these companies still have to grapple with cost, with exchange rate that is crazy, depleting their revenue lines in terms of their reporting. So you're really not at par with international companies, right? So when you're speaking to investors, it affects your valuation, right? So they have to grapple with sourcing for talent, right? Also, all of those things really affect you as a business. We are doing great. You see opportunities, but you still have to grapple with all of those things. So yeah, businesses go through a lot in Nigeria.
Please call us on 0144899981 to add your thoughts to the contributions of the conversation that's going on right now. Ask questions. My special guest, Tomie Balogun. Tomie is the founder and CEO of Vestract, a financial education and technology company. Wale Olusi is the head investment research at United Capital PLC. Taking an urgent look into the future of Nigeria, the economy of Nigeria amidst the harsh realities that we're facing and how to push it forward. We'll take a look at an article that you referred to me, and as well as Wale, A Crawling Economy in Need of Stimulus, as published on this newspaper. I think that was on Monday. Stay with us here on Smooth 98.1 for Lagos Talks 981 special.
What does future forward banking mean to you? Speed, innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just simply getting service?
Thank you. Welcome back just now in 38 seconds. I'm going to go through, not extensively, but I'll just mention some of the areas that MBS highlighted.
Okay.
report, yes.
Believe that banking
Feel
should
free
be
to
all
refer to
about
it.
you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providus bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providusbank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providus Bank, future forward banking. Providus Bank,
Let's go.
future forward banking.
Good to have you join us for Lagos Talks 981 special. You're listening and tuned to Smooth 98.1 Lagos. My name is Valentine Ohu, your host, and my guest today for this special conversation is Wale Olusi, Head Investment Research at United Capital PLC, Tomie Balogun, Founder and Chief Executive Officer of Vestract, Financial Education and Technology Company. We're taking a look at the economic future of Nigeria amidst the harsh realities that we're facing. There's an article, or rather a news story, an editorial that was published on this newspaper some days ago, a report from the National Bureau of Statistics reflecting the trend over the last half decade. In this editorial, Nosa James Igbinadolo, he looked at the last figures from MBS and posits a route to growth and development. He mentioned at some points the GDP said contracted minus 2.21% in the first quarter compared to a contraction of 19.76% in Q4 of 2020. During one of the statements released by the Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, yesterday, he gave an analysis, or rather just reports, of the performance of the Buhari-led administration in the past 6 years, being that Saturday marked it 6 years since they started in 2015, saying that they performed well in job creation, in the agricultural sector, and the fight against COVID. That's a given for any administration. If you're citizens or you recorded low numbers, probably call that a success. But we can't ignore the effects, right, that it had on jobs, on money in people's pockets, right? While you're speaking, Tomie, I like that you mentioned those sectors that have thrived in spite of these harsh realities, especially fintech. We heard some of the acquisitions that were made, some of the funds that were raised, and all that. But in terms of the way people can afford goods and services, like the affordability of the average Nigerian for cost of goods and services having risen so far. Wale, I'd like you to take a look at this. We'll see commodities, the prices of commodities spike, right? What are some of those policies that you would have seen or you'd have loved to see being implemented during this time to cushion the effect of the economic, downturn?
I mean, well, when there's a recession like this, I mean, the theoretical policy prescription is the fact that government need to spend and they should be bold at doing it. The problem, however, in Nigeria between last year and now is that it's funny because we don't have the money to spend, but what the CBN has done is to basically be everywhere. They've crashed rates, and that's why you were referring to treasury bills rate at maybe below 1%. Sometimes last year is rebounded so far this year. The fiscal policy authorities too, they've tried. There was a popular, what will I call it now, palliative that they tried to do, but it wasn't enough. If you look at many of the advanced countries, that's what they've been doing. There's been a lot of stimulus. Go to the US, go to Europe. There's been a lot of stimulus basically to cushion the effect of the recession. There were direct injection into the hand of the household, into firms, and certain sectors that are heavily affected. But in our case, we can't do that because we don't actually have the firepower to really do that. Well, maybe what we could have done, however, despite everything, is to, and of course, we can't also rule out the role of the private sector locally. The private sector have also come together. They put COVID, funds together. They try to support, but it's sad because the events from last October till now have clearly showed us where the bulk of many of those support facilities, went into. So I think our problem is beyond just trying to respond to recession that happened due to the pandemic. I think we need to get down to business and be very, very serious with ourselves as a nation. What do we want to achieve? And begin to look at the root problems in this country. There's a lot of brain drain, or what you call immigration at the moment. Everybody just wants to leave. There's a huge poverty problem in the country. Unemployment is 33%. Education is in shambles because most of the institutions are on strike. The judiciary is a big problem. So I think our problem is now beyond short-term, low-hanging fruit problem. We need to look at those issues and begin to think, how do we tackle the real problem? And I think everything starts with leadership, whether we want to accept this or not. Leadership must be able to canvass everybody, because I know you might want to think about monetary policy and all of this, but central bank has done everything literally possible that can be done, and it's not working. We can't actually really throw money at all these problems again and wish them away. No, they will not go away. But we need to be serious. I saw videos of people trying to pull out, iron rod on the railway lines that we are trying to fix. So it looks like where we are now, there's a orientation problem we need to fix. There's a need for government to be serious and push and prove to people that they are really serious about it. And then there's this commitment that everybody needs to buy. And then we now need to chart a strategic plan as a country that this is the direction we want to go. If you look at the economy, what do we need to do now to bring about the kind of growth we have? If the central bank needs to bite the bullet and devalue the currency so that our exports can be very cheap and we can attract foreign investment that we dearly need, we need to do it. If the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in conjunction with Agric, trade and investment and all of this sector, if they need to sit down and say, what do all these countries, what do we have as an economy that we can export other than oil? Because the whole world is shifting away from oil now. That's what can we export? What do they need? Tomie just mentioned the standard that is required. What are those standards? How do we meet them? We put those framework in place and begin to meet them. Then we start exporting those things. So that, like I mentioned earlier, every economy is a business. And that's how many of these advanced economies that we copy all of these theories from, that's what they do. If we cannot sell something, we cannot get those dollars, we just keep racking up debts. We need to export something. Nigeria and the presidency, they are like the father of the household. That's why we have, import problem, because the CBN is tired. We import everything and, there's no dollar on ground again, like this popular thing they say. So the trade minister and all those people, they need to sit down and say, okay, what can we export? Then we begin to produce those things and export them. In the process of doing this, you are creating jobs, you are providing liquidity in the FX markets, you are engaging many of the youths that are creating all of this instability, this agitation, this killing and rioting and kidnapping that are ongoing. All of these things is a big problem that is together. So we need to sit down as an economy and be serious. We need to get to business. That's the way I see it at the moment. I'm not sure there's really any short-term, low-hanging fruit that we can really play to at the moment. Otherwise, what we are asking for is what the government is doing. They will borrow a lot of money. We will not see the impact of all those borrowing. They will fix the dollar crisis temporarily. And then in about 1 year or two from now, because there's going to be another election, we'll find ourselves in the same place again, and then we'll have to devalue and all of that. I think this is a time to take critical look at our problem and be very serious at how we need to chart a way forward and begin to do things. We can't keep talking. We need to start doing things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wale. And I like that you touch on those important aspects, especially highlighting some of the government policies, or maybe the government policies that could be corrected. What are some of these other unhealthy government policies that you see, Tomie?
Well, it's really around fiscal and monetary policy, and then we will now go into regulation as well. So in terms of the fiscal policies, it's really around government spending. We need to cut short our spending. We're spending money on recurrent expenditure that is not in any way adding to infrastructure development in the economy. You can't grow an economy like that way. You keep on borrowing money from what's it called? The World Bank and all of that. You keep on asking the CBN to print money. And then, and where's that money going to? That money should be going into something going into the economy to improve output. Like that's how you grow GDP. But it is just going into government spending. Government spending is huge. The cost is just unnecessary at this point if you want to grow the economy. Taxes, right? What can they do with taxes in terms of fiscal policy? How can we attract business into this country? I mean, a lot of countries around the world offer tax incentives, right, to businesses to get them to come into that country, do some infrastructure development, some PPP, private-public partnerships or something. And it's clear that the monetary policy in Nigeria is not in any way, they're not focused on inflation. We've seen inflation continue to rise because, I mean, at the beginning, it was like, oh, we need to manage the, the value of the naira, keep the MPC at a certain rate, all of that, mop up and all of that, drop rates. But at the end of the day, we're saying that, come guys, this is not working. Inflation is just continue to rise, right? What are you going to do to fix it? Regulation as well has been a major problem. I think especially regulation, because regulation is something that gives off the perception that a country is open to business. So when you just come up with all kinds of things, you see innovation, and the only thing you want to do is just say, release a report that these guys are going to be shut down, or this person is doing something wrong. It's like, okay, guys, these guys are trying and struggling to innovate in spite of all that is going on in the economy, right? At most, you should call them to the table and say, okay, we see what you're doing. It is good for the economy, but we need to bring you under the regulatory authority. We saw that especially in fintech. There should be room for collaboration and open discussions and conversations, right? Innovation is definitely going to keep moving ahead. There's no way the CBN can avoid it, right? Or whichever other regulatory authority. But you can't just come up with policies and just that set of panic, that set of all kinds of, wrong perceptions that set investors getting worried about, even when they see a fantastic business opportunity, they're concerned about regulation. I mean, let's take the big MTN as a big example. Like you just come up with all kinds of fines, come up with all kinds of things, and ShopRite is leaving Nigeria. So many things are happening that they're going to affect growth and output. And these are things that I don't know if our leadership understand these things, because they seem to be so concerned about always asserting their their right to control and keep things going. But we're saying that it is hurting the economy, it is hurting jobs, it is hurting people, it is driving the price of food up and up. People are beginning to spend more on so many more things because inflation keeps rising, right? So all these policies are unhealthy, and someone needs to take a holistic view. It seems like a lot of these government parastatals are all working in isolation. Someone needs to come together and take a holistic view and say, how are we going to help this economy grow in real sense?
Even based on that article, there was an allusion that was made to the fact that, even as the administration seems to enjoy courting agriculture as one means to diversify, an easier way to go away from oil and gas, is it enough to provide to boost the economy in the way that we dream of?
Well, the truth is, I was reading a CBN speech, the CBN governor's speech, current CBN governor's speech, and he alluded to the fact that the agricultural sector was one of the sectors that actually brought Nigeria out of 5 consecutive quarters of recession in 2016, 2015. But I'm like, see, that's the problem. And that's one thing Wale said, we're too short-term in our thinking. So if we knew that, why wasn't there a huge focus on the agricultural sector from that time? A lot of investment, a lot of education, a lot of that pumped into that sector, so we don't have to go through this cycle again. But of course, short-term thinking, it happened, we came out back to crude oil prices, right? We always go back to crude oil prices. It just seems like the oil that always continues to flow in Nigeria, and maybe one day it will stop flowing and then we'll get our perspective right. Right.
That's true. That's something that we say and laugh about, but in reality, it might not be a joke. Well, let's take a break. We'll be back. I'll touch on those regulations that you highlighted. And of course, Wale, I'll throw the next question at you. Wale, by the way, Wale Olusi is the head investment research at United Capital. Tomie Balogun, whose voice you've been hearing now, listening to, founder and CEO of Vestract, financial education and technology company. We're looking at the economic future, or into the economic future of Nigeria amidst the harsh realities. Let's talk regulation and how we can survive based on personal finance after this.
Bank. Future forward banking.
Whew.
What does future forward banking mean to you? Speed, innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just simply getting service that is designed just for you? Yeah, we thought you might like all of that and more. That is why we specially created Providus Bank for you to take care of your daily experiences. At Providus Bank, we believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providus Bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providusbank.com to switch to a future-forward banking experience.
All right, let's go back.
Providus Bank, future forward banking. It's the Breakfast Crew on your radio.
Good morning, and thank you for being here with us. You're listening to Lagos Talk Special as a part of Smooth Breakfast. My name is Valentine Ohu. I'm joined by Wale Olusi, Head of Investments and Research at United Capital, has over 5 years' experience in active coverage of developments in the Nigerian macro and sub-Saharan African economy. And Tomie Balogun, the founder and CEO of a financial education and technology company called Vestract. And she's here, she's an educator, she's a leader within the financial education space in Africa. Before the break, she was giving her insights to what could be done better in terms of financial policies, monetary policies to move the nation's economy forward. But going down to individual experiences and how we are thriving, we've been thriving in the areas we've been that has been boosted or been nudged towards the path of growth in spite of the harsh policies, financial policies that are mitigating this growth. One cannot ignore the fact that I think 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm not wrong, Wale, please correct me if I'm wrong, we had over 5.5 million unemployed youth. Now it has grown to over 23.19 million.
That's
I mean, how
awesome.
do you, yes, thank you so much. Okay, let me ask it this way. What are some of those areas that these 23.19 million unemployed people can plug into, to sail through these tough policies, and keeping in mind the fact that we've had these regulations putting limitations on Forex, banning Bitcoin, banning all these other innovative areas that are coming now that should have been embraced. So
Right.
what else is there to look forward to or look up to?
I mean, which other sector, how else do we create jobs for these people?
Yes.
The question you are. Yes, I mean, I'll take it from what Tomie, where Tomie stopped, that we need somebody to sit down, maybe like a national planning minister, and bring everybody together and say, what do we want to achieve? Where are the sectors that are driving the most growth, and where do government, where can we support all of this sector the most in a way that, I mean, for example, the president has a plan to move about 100 million people out of poverty over the next, the statement says 10 years, even though he has less than 10 years, effectively in power. So where are these jobs going to come from that will, lift these people out of poverty? I think the digital economy is, one of those areas that we can look at. The growth is massive. If you look at last year, despite the pandemic, the ICT sector, led by the telcos, was one of the fastest growing because of, what the pandemic has created. When I used to come on Business Express back in the days, I have to wake up very early and get to, VI very early so that we can do this in your office. But today we are doing this, virtually, and that applies to a lot of things that everybody is doing today, including our jobs and, all of that. So a lot is happening in the digital economy. My wife does, digital marketing and, sell all our wares from home. Sales has more than doubled since last year because everybody just orders stuff. So I think one area government can think of is how do we support these people? From the educational point of view, how do we redesign our, education system? Support that. I once read a tweet recently that, you don't need to force your kids to go and read oil and gas again when the world is moving away from there. But today, Nigeria is still looking at the past, when everybody's investing in, ideas and technology and so on. So we need to take that sector serious. I agree. We can't throw it away. The only problem is that we've been doing it the wrong way. And if we want to do it the right way, we must overhaul the entire thing. And that starts from the Land Use Act. The land tenure system in Nigeria will not support the kind of growth that we need from the agri sector. A system that's, does not allow for a large-scale farming. What we need if you want to really create jobs is large-scale farming. We've been using the idea of, all these NYC people, what else can we do with them? If we want them to really support growth, the agric is, one area we can look at. And I'm not asking, fresh graduates from university to go and carry cutlass and hose and start, doing all those stuff. But if we mechanize it and make it big, like I mentioned earlier, if we look at what we can export large enough that the world needs, agric, I mean, I've traveled to the east, to the northern part of this country and the west. We still have huge amount of land that are fertile that we can still use to, do crops, both cash and, other crop that we can export. But it has to be mechanized, not all of this, current system that we have. We also need to invest in logistics. We need to invest in storage. We need, things that will make, this thing possible. We also need to do something about, the massive brain drain that is ongoing or immigration. Nigerians don't believe in Nigeria again. We need to bring that hope back. But before we can do that, we need to give them something that they can look forward to. And at the moment, the political situation in the country does not even support that. So I don't know how we want to solve that political aspect. But if we want real growth to come, Nigerians must believe in Nigeria, and we have to find a way to make all those people look back. We also need to fix the, healthcare system, the education system. All of these things have to be fixed. In terms of other sectors that are also, quite attractive, the manufacturing sector is yet to really live to its expectation. And that comes to FX again, because many of what they use there are imported, either the machinery or the raw materials. So we need to take a hard look at the manufacturing sector. How do we support these people? Because over the years, both Nigeria and Africa, what we've done is to depend so much on agric without really doing much with agric. So we need to industrialize Nigeria. We need to industrialize Africa. As much as we want to talk about what is happening in the ICT sector and the services sector, which account for about 50% of the Nigerian economy, we still need the manufacturing sector. We need to produce things. And if we need the help of, all these countries where we are importing from, we can go ahead and find a way to partner or collaborate with them. Nigeria uses all the cars, but we don't assemble most of them in Nigeria. If you look at all the roads, it's Toyota you see, but there's not a single factory of Toyota. It's not there. Now, you can't talk about, manufacturing sector without power supply. Mm-hmm. So we need to fix power. If we want to use, oil and gas to do that power or, whatever we've been doing, we need to be serious about it. And if we want to go solar, let's go renewable. But we have oil and gas for now. We need to fix that power. We need to be serious with it. What I've seen so far in Nigeria is vested interest. The people that should fix things are too interested in their own selfish interests at the expense of the interest of the general public. So at some point, we need to get serious. I think I keep repeating myself. So power has to be fixed if you want to fix the manufacturing sector. And if you don't do that, manufacturing sector will never work, and we'll keep importing things, and then we'll always run into this dollar crisis all the time. I think I should better stop now.
And I hear you, man. I hear you. You speak for all of us, because sometimes when you talk about these issues, and not you subjectively, I mean every one of us, you hear yourself sounding frustrated and angry at the same time.
Yes.
But that emotion is necessary for productivity sometimes, right? But at this point, what sort of areas or sectors do you think youth can channel that anger towards, improving? First, still having in hindsight that the federal government instituted some social intervention programs that they would readily bring up to say, oh yeah, we did anchor borrowers programs supposed to put some tools and enable youth with, give them that capacity to grow, especially in the agricultural sector. But Tomie, besides agriculture, what other areas do you think youth can plug in? Like, as you mentioned, you hinted at the fact that some sectors thrived during COVID, and post-COVID, they're still thriving. What are some of those sectors that youth can actually look towards?
Right. So I guess like what is a digital economy? So the digital economy encompasses so many sectors. So when I speak tech, when I say tech, I see tech as an enabler, right? So when we say fintech, health tech, agrotech, off-grid tech, it's all tech, right? But it's just enabling an already existing sector. So what we are seeing is a huge opportunity, especially with the pandemic. The pandemic opened up a lot of countries that were not already opened up to the digital economy to see what is possible, right? So so in fintech, what I see is fintech has enabled a lot of small businesses, like SMEs make up like 80% of businesses in Nigeria. And with fintech, the ability to process payment has become a lot more easier, right? Which is a critical part of your business, the ability to process payment. I remember then it was always a problem, if you wanted to order something, you had to transfer or pay cash, but now it's as easy as using your card to pay using one of the payment processors. So that's why we've seen those companies grow remarkably, right? Especially in the past year. We see the fintech companies have been acquired or, that are now unicorns, right? We've seen that happen in fintech. But, fintech payment processing is just one aspect of fintech. There are other areas of fintech as well. There's lending. We've seen a lot more lending companies come up, with innovation. A lot more people can get access to loans. Even the banks as well are now competing. I mean, before banks used to give a lot of payday loans, but there's a lot more competition in that area for in the lending space in terms of individual payday loans, SME financing. There are a lot of companies coming up around that, especially because, the challenge has always been with the banks. You probably require collateral and all of the, requirements they give you. But now on an app, you can get a loan quite easily, right? And I work with a couple of companies that will amaze you that they have huge amounts of demand from the north, right? A man in Sokoto is, asking for a loan on his app, on his phone, right, using his mobile. And a lot of them are beginning to get aware of the fact that they can get access to credit. And access to credit is a critical part for any economy to grow, because that's how you can grow your businesses. That's how you can do a lot more when you have access to credit. And lending is just not for consumer financing. There's vehicle financing as well. There's mortgage financing. Those are all areas that need to be disrupted as well, because we know that 30 to 40 or 60 to 70% of the Nigerian population, young people, right? Young people below 40, 50, right? Those people would need to, own houses, own assets, and they need access to financing. That's what grows any economy. Most of the economies we see in the developed countries grew because the people had access to credit, right? To really live the lives they want, right? So that's in the fintech space. There's also opportunity around wealth management. A lot more people are becoming aware of their portfolio and how I can, build an investment portfolio. And that's what I do, personal finance. So I see huge opportunities in that space, and that's where I play as well, right? So moving on from fintech and all the opportunities there, because fintech is huge. There's skill sets, learning how to code, all of that required. So we've seen some talent companies actually rise recently, Talent QL and a couple of companies, because as that sector grows, you're going to need a lot more talent to play that sector, right? So huge opportunity. One of the members of my team is a student of the University of Benin. I was so impressed with him because he taught himself digital skills online, and he went through the recruitment process. I didn't even realize that he was a student. But guess what? It was after we hired him, we realized that, but he's earning income because he learned digital skills and he can create graphics and do a lot on this. So there's a huge opportunity there he's in Benin, I'm in Lagos. So a lot of people across Nigeria can learn digital skills, because as the tech continues to enable different sectors, people are going to need to hire talent, right? So health tech, huge opportunity in health tech. We've seen across primary healthcare, there's this new thing we're testing out. I'm not sure if it's going to work out yet, telemedicine and how it works.
I heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, even in the US, it's still been tested, right? It's not sure if that trend is going to continue after the pandemic, because people do like physical visits to their doctors. So, I mean, it's still something to be tested. So, but primary healthcare is very critical, and access to, being able to do that by your mobile is something we haven't really tapped into. Right. And there's also the pharmaceutical area as well. Huge opportunity there. Recently, I read a pitch deck from a startup, and my goodness, she has huge interests. A lot of investors want to put in money because there's huge opportunity in that space. Right. So health is massive because, like we said, the pandemic showed us the huge gap in that sector in Nigeria, and Nigerians spend a lot on medical tourism. It will shock you that even to Ghana, not even like US, UK, or India, Ghana, which is just our next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Right, huge opportunity there. And then, of course, there's also energy. As long as we don't have lights, huge opportunity there. And we've seen some come up with some off-grid tech options, renewable energy coming up. I mean, it's really around government policy, because if you look at the way the electricity industry is structured in terms of generation, distribution, and transmission, the huge obstruction we see or obstacle we see is transmission. A lot of people are working towards generating power. The distribution companies are also, they've raised financing, they're ready to, but transmission seems to be like the block, right? Because the government seems to want to hold on to that space. But I don't know, it's a huge problem that needs to be solved if you really want to fix electricity in this country, right? So for me, when I speak to people, I always say that the question you should ask, well, as an investor, is where are people spending money? Because in spite of any economy situation, right, whatever is happening in the economic boom, economic recession, if you as an investor focus on where people are spending money, you will see the opportunities, right? So one of the things we also saw during the pandemic was a huge boom in the logistic sector, right? Because like a lot of people started to go online to order stuff, right? A lot of companies started to meet that need, right? And this is just even within Lagos and Abuja. You can imagine if it's talking interstate, intercountry, there's so much opportunity in that e-commerce space. Like payment processing has helped e-commerce, but then logistics needs to step up as well to see how we can move goods, right? Even within local states, across interstates, and then even West Africa and Africa. It's amazing how difficult it is to move goods within Africa and much easier to move across, borders and all of that. And, there's so much education that needs to be done. Even in the agricultural space, our farmers need education because they seem to be doing things wrong. There's a lot of policy and work to, give them fertilizers, give them pesticides, but they're doing it wrong. Because if you look at the cowpea example I gave, one of the CEOs in that industry I was speaking with and was saying that the problem is they put the pesticides on the seed and not in the soil. And that alone is
dangerous.
Very dangerous. You shouldn't be putting it on the seed. And we are eating this food. A lot of us don't even realize that that's what's happening. I mean, I was shocked when I heard that.
It has serious health implications.
Oh my goodness. I mean, if we're 3,000% higher than the European standard on a particular crop, it's scary, right? So it's a lot of education that needs to be done. Government keeps coming up with all these things that, empower. It is not solving the problem. It's not solving the problem because you can't be giving a farmer 20,000 or 50,000 naira and expecting that's something. That's just that's cash giveaway. In fact, they'll tell you there's government money and they'll spend it. Right.
Which was exactly the statements that I made when asked to refund the loans because they were supposed to be loans, right?
Exactly. We need to begin to incentivize people in the right way, not just handing out cash, right? How can you incentivize them to see that by learning, they can actually create wealth for their families and their personal lives, right? It's not just about, get money from the government and you're fine. And then the next thing you wait until the next person comes to hand over money to you. How can you get the education you need and the financing you need to build wealth, right? Because with building wealth, you provide employment, you provide so many things, and that's how economies grow. Economies grow on the back of small businesses doing the right thing. We've seen that across board in the US, even the UK right now, there's a huge focus on enabling businesses and tech because of Brexit. They realize now they have to be competitive. Ghana, oh my God, Ghana is a fantastic case study of a country finally getting it right in West Africa. They're opening up their borders. They don't even have the population. What annoys me is that we all know Ghana is positioning themselves to be the entry point into Nigeria. Let's not even.
Have you looked at the real estate business in Ghana now? Investors from the US are trooping in droves.
Yeah, because it's just a 2-hour flight. I think it's also a 3-hour flight to Nigeria, and you can get access into Nigerian market. So let's not even deceive ourselves. They'd rather be in Nigeria, but are we encouraging them to come into this country, or we're giving off the perception that we can do whatever we like, at whatever time? So yes. In 2020, what we saw were huge opportunities in this spaces. As an investor, as someone who manages the community, I saw people get good returns because we're able to take advantage of opportunities, right? But then even more on a larger scale, how are we thinking long-term about this? Are we going to go back to the same cycle of, crude oil prices go up and then, we're fine, we have money, we stash up the national reserves or external reserves until the next thing happens? We're going into the pre-election year now. We know what's going to happen. Spending money, dollars in bags moved all over the place. Only God knows what's going to happen to inflation and naira rates at that point. And then there's the fight to get into office, and then what? We start another cycle. It's time for us to stop. like, let's just stop. It's getting really worrying, right? So yeah, I'll stop there.
We have a message from Germany, all the way from Germany. Damilola, thank you for joining us and listening live via the stream. He said, I'd like to say a few things about the current topic. Agriculture is not going to provide jobs to the Nigerian youth. Subsistence agriculture has no position in today's modern society. And subsistence agriculture is the only form of agriculture that can provide jobs, if we're going to be honest. If we truly want to develop agriculture in Nigeria, it will be mechanized, and that would result in even lower employment than we currently have. And that goes to your statement as well, Wale, that you mentioned earlier in terms of mechanization of agriculture. As a closing statement, what would you say could be ideal for the growth of the economy, in the coming months?
So can I respond to that comment?
Yes,
right?
as well. Yes, please.
Yes. In terms of agriculture, I think what we need to think is across the value chain. So farming the land is just one aspect of the value chain. If you look across the value chain with agro processing, with creating all kinds of products and produce, with logistics, with storage, I think that there's a huge opportunity across the value chain for employment, right? So I would say that.
Thank you so much, Tomie. Wale.
I mean, he just mentioned it. If we produce things large enough and they become cheap enough, we can export them, especially if we're able to meet the right standard. If we want to grow the economy, we just need to do the right thing. Be pro-market. Think in terms of what do investors want to see? What do business people need, to make their businesses profitable? If you're a Dangote, or you are a First Bank, or you are a Boa Cement, or I mean, what do you need from the government? Government should put in place the right, infrastructure. They should support businesses. You shouldn't be taxing them to death. You shouldn't be, competing with them. You should be attracting investors. How do you? I mean, she just mentioned a number of countries, that are tax havens. If these are the things we need to do to attract investors, those are the things we need to do. We need to sit down and ask ourselves, what do we need to do? This economy is an economy that should be growing 10% at the minimum, and we can do it. I mean, China did it for years when they thought long term. Recently, they just decided to, adopt a 3-child policy because the current policy they are adopting will not meet the growth prospect that they are looking at. Again, what policy do Nigeria have around population? How many people are coming out from universities every year? And what is the plan for those fresh graduates for jobs? Which sectors are they going into? Where do we want to see ourselves in the next 10, 20 years? And what are we doing to achieve that? Again, in the past, we used to have all of these things. There were Vision 2010, Vision 2020, FSS 20, all those things.
Now they are being revised.
Today, nobody even say anything about those kind of long-term strategic plan again, whether they are implemented or not. The problem today is that nobody says anything about those kind of visionary statements again. So we need to become visionary again. We need to draft those plans. We need to implement them. We need to bring in those that can help us implement them. You asked a question around those of us that are youth. How do we channel the energy, the anger that we have now? I think most of us should just continue doing what we are doing in the digital economy, coding, all those things, despite the zero support from government, because we are very resilient people. We should continue. We shouldn't give up. Those who want to, travel outside to go and earn hard currencies and send it back to their, family members who are here, should also go ahead and do it. At the end of the day, it's actually win-win, because if things also get, become okay again, some of them come back with all of this skill and, they come back to replicate some of the things they've learned there. But the government needs to do their parts. Yes. And the sectors that are saying growth today, fine for those sectors, but they would have done even better if the correct policy framework were to be in place.
Thank you so much. And when we speak of government, we speak of government at every level, from the council level to local government, to states,
local
to
government,
presidency,
yes.
to everywhere, and regions as well. But a special thanks to you, Tomie Balogun. You know how I enjoy our conversations. I really love that you made it to this show today. Tomie Balogun, founder, CEO of Vestract, financial education and technology company, and Wale Olusi, head investment research at United Capital PLC. Thank you so much for making out time to have this conversation with me, and I'll call on you again. That's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Wale.
Thank you. Always talking with you as well. Nice meeting you.
Yes, please. If people want to interact with you, because I know a lot of people are reserving their comments because they were listening intently, how do they reach out to you? Social media, email?
Social media is fine.
Yeah, I mean, social media.
Say that again, Tomie?
Yeah.
At Tomie Balogun, Tomie Balogun.
Right. Wale?
Yeah, at Olusi Wale on Twitter.
Thank you so much. You have a